Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show you how you can take any logo, like a picture from the internet, and easily isolate one element and it will create masks from this one element so you can scale it infinitely and animate it more easily. But first, just sit back and relax for a second. I just want to show you, if you just were to drag a picture of like a circle, and I'm going to move the anchor point with this pan behind tool so when I scale it, we can see. So if we were to scale this up, at a certain point, let me zoom in. We start losing definition. We start seeing pixels, like blurry pixels. So that's like a resolution issue. But with curves, so if it's a mask, that's a curve, or if it's one of these shape layers, that's also a curve. So I'm going to just draw a circle with this shape layer tool. I had no layer selected, so it creates a shape. And let me turn off the fill by clicking the fill word and choosing none, and turn on the stroke by clicking the stroke word and choosing this solid line. And you can adjust the stroke width. So once again, I'm going to change my anchor point to be right about there. So when I scale, it scales from the anchor point. And now I can scale this up infinitely, and we never lose that resolution. It's always a crisp line, so that's awesome. And if we were to do take a logo and do the same thing, as we did with the circle, sometimes businesses have really small logos, right? And if you want to put it in an HD frame, it's going to look horrible. So you want to convert that small, crappy looking JPEG into curves. And here's how you do it. So I'm going to just delete this. So we're going to use Illustrator, but there's other vector graphic programs that you can find online, and a lot of them have this same tool, this like tracing tool. So let's start with this ATP logo. I'm just going to drag it in, and as you can see, it's pretty small, but I'm going to click this selection tool with V, and I'm going to scale it up while holding Shift, dragging the corners so it maintains that proper size. Now you go to Object, Image Trace, and we're just going to make, because we need to customize it a little bit. If you do make and expand, it just tries to figure it out on its own. But so we wanted to see that apple and we're not seeing it. So if we click this little box right here, the Image Trace panel, we can begin to customize this. So first, the mode is black and white. Let's change it to color. So now we're going to get a better result. If you had and you can't easily see what the result is, so instead of viewing the tracing result, let's view the outlines. And right there, that's perfect. If you had a more complex image, or if it came from a picture, you might want to reduce the colors, because if it's a picture, and this blue color might have different shadows on it. So you would want to ignore those shadows by saying, well, there's only 4 real colors I'm looking for. And sometimes that will help turn a picture into curves more easily. So we have a good trace, and now I'm going to expand. In other words, confirm. Okay, so at first glance, we don't see anything. And if I click this, I believe it's the path tool, and I click and drag, it all moves as one. So let me click off somewhere. So now no mask is selected. Now if I click and drag this white, it moves. So I'm just going to click in the middle of all these, basically in the middle of all the pieces I don't want. You can also click and drag and hit delete. So here is the shape I want, and basically it's as simple as clicking this. It's called the direct selection tool. Just click the shape. You can move and drag it, and hit Command C to copy the curve. And then if you go into After Effects, I have a composition already. It's called the path. Make a new solid. Doesn't matter what color it is at the moment. And then hit Command V. And right off the bat, it copied that curve. And let's see what happens if I scale it. Let's see. I'm not sure. I do see a little pixelation there, but I think it's quite good. I mean, I scaled it 2,000%. So a couple things. One, I don't like this jagged edge, so now that I brought it into After Effects, I can easily, I know the mask is selected because I see these dots. I'm going to go to my arrow selection tool and just click one of the dots. You can see that when they're selected, the vertex becomes kind of, at first it's an outline and then it becomes filled. So I'm just going to hit delete on that, and then click this one, and there are these handles, and just kind of push this out. One little problem I stumbled across, let's hide this layer, and I'm going to right click, create new solid. We'll just make this one red. So sometimes if you get ahead of yourself, you might end up wanting to clean it up in Illustrator. So if I click this vertex here and delete, and this here, I thought, oh, this is a perfect shape. I'm just going to copy this, Command C, go to After Effects and paste. And the mask gets pasted, but I don't see any change. And what happens is that curve was not closed. When I deleted those points, it left it open in Illustrator. So let me show you how you would fix that in Illustrator. And really, I just did a quick Google search of like, how do I fix this? I searched how to close a path in Illustrator, and it says choose the object, go to path, and join. So I chose the go to object, look for path, join, and then it closed that path right there. So Command C, Command V. Now, from what we learned in our other class, there's a few ways you can animate this. For one, you could just animate position by you could go to the transform tools and set a keyframe here, move it, maybe rotate it, set a keyframe, and maybe scale it. Set the keyframe. So you can basically animate the transforms. You can ease them by hitting F9, or hold Fn on your keyboard and then hit F9. And you could add motion blur by turning on the motion blur within the composition. And then if you don't see this circle right here, toggle the switch in mode and then turn that on. So now you could get motion blur, but we also can animate the mask path to expand and contract if you wanted it to like bleed through or something. The other cool little effect you can do is if you go into this effects and presets, you could look up something called stroke, which is one of my favorites to use, and I just drag this stroke right onto that layer. And what's happening if the layer is clicked and you see that mask, if you don't want to see the mask, you can toggle it on and off here. But it just outlined that shape, and you can adjust the brush size, and you can have it start and end. So you could animate this this end position by clicking the stopwatch, moving down the line, and then just dragging it out. And it did create keyframes. I can know that by, I'm going to toggle open this, go to Effects, Stroke, and I see the keyframes right here. A quicker way to see keyframes than toggling all those is if you just hit U, then it opens up any animated property. So there's my end. But I might not want it to just like animate around an object that's already there. So I can say on transparent. So it animates. I'm not sure what reveal image is. Oh, that's just reveal, like if you have a bigger brush size, it's revealing wherever the stroke is, it shows what the image would have been. So I would do on transparent to have this stroke, and then maybe you could duplicate this layer with Command D and turn off the effect. So we have one layer that's doing a stroke and one layer that fades on. If I hit T for transparency, I can animate the opacity. So I want that at 100, and then maybe down here at nothing. So it would be something like that. And maybe this could be faded out by hitting T. to here. So that's one way you can animate a group's logo. Yeah, let's see how we're doing on time. Okay, so this has been, I think, a long enough tutorial, but it would be the same process if you wanted to use this little male figure. Let's just see. You know, if you remember, what's the thing, what's the magic word? You go object, image, trace, and this, let's see. Object, image, trace, and this one, since it's just one object, I'm going to just make and expand because I figure it's probably pretty easy for it to figure it out. Click these two, Command C. I'm going to hide these. New solid. And then there is a person. So if I were doing this part, I would just leave this layer. I wouldn't copy a bunch of masks. I would just say, call it like person, and then move him here, and then duplicate it. You know, several times. And then this could be a group of people. All right, so that is how you turn a picture into a curve.